The great assembly hall of the Galactic Council trembled with desperate voices. Representatives from countless star systems filled the enormous chamber, their alien forms creating a tapestry of colors and shapes. At the center stood Ambassador Zephyr, his silver skin drained of color from exhaustion and terror. "Please, esteemed members," Zephyr spoke into the silence following the emergency alert. "The Vorthan Empire has assembled their war armada. 900 vessels approach our territory. They will arrive within 72 hours. Whispers cascaded through the assembly. The Vorthans were infamous across the galaxy as merciless destroyers. They seized what they desired and obliterated what they couldn't exploit. Entire civilizations had vanished beneath their advance. What military resources do the Solarians possess?" inquired Counselor Nexus, her crystalline features chiming with anxious energy. 16 patrol craft and some industrial vessels," Zephyr replied, his voice cracking. "We are a harmonious people. We possess no instruments of warfare. Our settlements house 15 billion souls." The magnitude of those numbers settled over the chamber like a shroud. 15 billion lives hung in the balance, and everyone present understood what Vorthan occupation meant. The Empire took no prisoners, only slaves and resources, leaving barren worlds behind. "The Kyrian Federation can contribute 8 destroyers," announced Representative Dex. "The Astral Coalition offers 3 cruisers and a support vessel," added another voice. One by one, the galaxy's major powers offered what they could spare, but their combined forces would barely scratch the surface of a Vorthan war fleet. Everyone knew it, and everyone felt the shame of their inadequacy. Zephyr watched the pathetic tally grow. 28 ships total against 900. It might as well be nothing. "There must be someone else," he pleaded. "Some power we haven't contacted." The chamber fell quiet. The major civilizations had already spoken. The smaller ones had nothing to offer but sympathy. "What about the humans?" The voice came from the rear of the chamber, belonging to Sub-Counselor Kreese, a minor representative from a frontier system. An uncomfortable silence filled the hall. Several representatives shifted uneasily in their seats. "The humans?" Counselor Nexus' crystalline form resonated faster. "They are newcomers, barely 50 years since first contact. Their world is perilous. Constant storms, crushing gravity, toxic atmosphere in regions," added Dex. "It breeds violent beings." "They are few in number," said the astral representative. "Perhaps 6 billion across their colonies. What could they possibly contribute?" Zephyr felt hope slip away again. He had heard of humans, the strange bipeds from the world called Terra. The stories were disturbing. Their planet was classified as a Class 12 death world, barely habitable by galactic standards. The few humans who visited other worlds were intense creatures with unsettling habits and piercing eyes. "They have vessels," Kreese insisted. "I have observed them at the border stations. Unusual designs, but they appear functional." "Border patrol ships," scoffed Nexus. "Even if they wish to help, what could a minor species contribute against the Vorthan Empire?" The debate continued, but Zephyr was no longer listening. 900 Vorthan warships would arrive soon. His people would perish. His children, his grandchildren, billions of innocent souls would die or worse. "Contact them," he said suddenly. The chamber quieted. "Contact the humans," Zephyr repeated louder. "If they have even one ship, it is more than we had before. I will plead if necessary." Counselor Nexus looked around the chamber. "Does anyone have a diplomatic channel to the human government?" "I do," Kreese said quietly. "There is a human vessel at Station Omega 7. A diplomatic mission. Send the message," Zephyr commanded. "Tell them we need help. Tell them 15 billion people will die if they refuse." The communication array sparked to life across the vast expanse of space, carrying Zephyr's desperate plea toward the human ship waiting at the galaxy's edge. Captain Elena Martinez stood on the bridge of the diplomatic vessel Harmony when the message arrived. Her dark eyes scanned the tactical data accompanying the Solarian plea. 900 ships, 15 billion lives at stake. Captain, her communications officer said, they're requesting any assistance we can provide. Even a single ship would be appreciated, according to their message. Martinez studied the data again. The Vorthan Empire had been expanding for decades, leaving nothing but death and slavery in their wake. Intelligence reports suggested they were preparing for an even larger campaign after Solaria. Send a reply, Martinez ordered. Tell them help is coming. What should I tell them we're sending? The communications officer asked. Martinez was quiet for a long moment. Through the viewport, she could see the distant stars that marked human space. Out there, shipyards worked around the clock. Defense fleets patrolled in formations that would make the galaxy tremble if they knew the truth. Tell them we'll handle it, she said finally. The message traveled back across space to the Galactic Council chamber. Zephyr read it aloud, his voice shaking with relief and gratitude. They said yes, he announced. The humans will help. The chamber erupted in surprised murmurs. Several representatives seemed shocked that the Deathworld species had agreed to assist. What are they sending? Asked Nexus. Zephyr read the message again. They said they will handle it. No specific numbers. Probably a patrol squadron, suggested Dex. Perhaps 7 or 8 ships. Better than nothing, Zephyr said, though privately. He wondered if even human ships could make a difference. Meanwhile, deep beneath Luna Station, Admiral Marcus Kane stood before the massive holographic display in the war room. The image showed the Solarian system in 3 dimensions, with crimson markers indicating the approaching Vorthan Fleet 9. 100 ships moving like a swarm of metallic locusts toward defenseless worlds. Show me the intelligence files on the Vorthans, Kane commanded. The display shifted, revealing data that made his jaw tighten. Images of burned worlds, enslaved populations, and systematic genocide. The Vorthans took everything of value and destroyed the rest. They had been expanding for 50 years, growing stronger with each conquest. Sir, Colonel Park stepped forward. The Galactic Council is calling this a minor crisis. They've offered 28 ships total. 28 ships against 900. Kane shook his head. What do they think this is? A training exercise? Captain Martinez's report had arrived an hour ago. The galaxy's major powers were treating this like a border dispute, not the slaughter it would become. 15 billion Solarian civilians would die or disappear into Vorthan slave markets. The Solarians are peaceful, General Torres added. No military tradition. They've never fought a war in their recorded history. Kane studied the tactical data again. The Vorthan fleet was massive, but it was also typical of their doctrine: overwhelming. Numbers, brutal tactics, and no concern for casualties. They expected their enemies to break and run. Recommendations? Kane asked his staff. 5th Fleet is at full readiness, Admiral Chun reported. They finished war games last month. All ships are supplied and ready for deployment. 5th Fleet. Kane considered this. The 5th Fleet was humanity's rapid response force, designed for exactly this kind of emergency. How many ships? 700 vessels, sir, including the Thunderstrike and her escort group. Kane was quiet for a long moment. The 5th Fleet represented more firepower than most star nations possessed in their entire military. It was overkill for a single enemy fleet, but the Vorthans had been expanding for decades. This was an opportunity to send a message. Deploy the 5th Fleet, Kane ordered. Full deployment. The war room erupted in controlled activity. Officers began issuing orders, sending signals across human space. The machinery of war that had slept for 20 years awakened with frightening efficiency. The Vorthan war fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Solarian system like a plague of metal locusts. 900 ships spread across space in attack formation. their dark hulls bristling with weapons designed for destruction. Admiral Vex stood on the bridge of his flagship, the World Ender, watching the tactical displays with satisfaction. The Solarian worlds hung before them like ripe fruit, defenseless and waiting to be harvested. "Scan the system," he ordered. "Show me what pathetic forces dare to oppose us." The sensor officer worked quickly, his clawed hands dancing over the VA. "Controls, sir. Detecting 32 vessels in defensive positions around the third planet. Most appear to be Galactic Council standard designs." Vex smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. 32 ships against 900. They must be planning to surrender. "Sir," the sensor officer's voice carried a note of confusion. "There are some unknown vessels mixed in with the Council fleet. The computer cannot identify their design origin." "Show me," Vex commanded. The main display shifted to show the defensive fleet in detail. Most of the ships were familiar, outdated. Kyrian destroyers, aging astral cruisers, and various patrol vessels belonging to minor powers. But scattered among them were 15 ships that looked different. The unknown vessels were sleek and angular, their hulls a dark gray that seemed to absorb light. They were smaller than most military ships, but carried themselves with an aggressive posture that suggested hidden strength. "Analysis?" Vex asked. His tactical officer studied the readings. The unknown ships show advanced shielding and unusual energy signatures. Their design appears optimized for combat rather than exploration. "Humans," the intelligence officer reported. "Cross-referencing with our database shows these match reports of human military vessels." Vex laughed. "Humans, the primitives from the Death World. How many of their ships are present?" 15 vessels, sir. All appear to be the same class." 15 ships, Vex mused. "They will make excellent examples. Destroy them first before we begin the main assault. Let the galaxy see what happens to those who interfere with the Vorthan Empire." Commander Blake watched the Vorthan fleet from the bridge of his destroyer, the Relentless. The enemy formation stretched across his sensors like a wall of death. 900 ships, each one built for conquest and slaughter. "They're taking their time," his tactical officer observed. "Probably. Trying to intimidate us," Blake nodded. The Vorthans were known for psychological warfare. They wanted their enemies to see the overwhelming odds and surrender without a fight. It worked on most species. "Orders from Admiral Kane," the communications officer reported. "Hold position and wait for the signal," Blake smiled grimly. The signal would come soon enough. Behind them, hidden in the shadow of Solaria's largest moon, the real surprise was waiting. The Vorthan fleet began its advance, moving in a formation designed to maximize firepower and minimize losses. Their ships were built for this kind of warfare, overwhelming numbers deployed against weaker enemies. "Target the unknown vessels first," Vex ordered. "I want those human ships destroyed before they can flee." The Vorthans opened fire at maximum range, filling space with energy beams and missiles. Their weapons had been tested against every major power in the galaxy. Nothing could withstand the concentrated firepower of 900 warships. The human ships responded by activating their defensive systems. Energy shields flared to life around each vessel, creating barriers of crackling force that seemed almost alive. The Vorthan weapons struck the human shields and stopped. Energy beams that could vaporize asteroids scattered harmlessly across the defensive barriers. Missiles exploded against shields that didn't even flicker under the assault. "Impossible," breathed Vex's tactical officer. "Their shields are absorbing everything we throw at them." "Increase power," Vex snarled. "No ship can withstand the full might of the Vorthan fleet." The bombardment intensified, turning space around the human ships into a storm of destruction. But the shields held, deflecting weapons that should have torn the vessels apart. Commander Blake watched the enemy fire splash against his ship's defenses without concern. Human shield technology had been developed to protect vessels traveling through Terra's radiation belts and solar storms. Vorthan weapons were powerful, but they were nothing compared to the forces that shaped the Death World. Signal from Admiral Kane, the communications officer reported. Execute Operation Thunder. Blake smiled. All ships, this is relentless. Light them up. Space around the Solarian system suddenly filled with new contacts as hundreds of ships dropped out of hyperspace in perfect formation. The Fifth Fleet had arrived, and its appearance transformed the battlefield in an instant. Asterisk. The human fleet was massive beyond belief. 700 warships materialized from hyperspace, each one larger and more advanced than anything the galaxy had ever seen. At their center was the Thunderstrike, a ship so enormous it dwarfed entire Vorthan squadrons. What is that? Vex whispered, staring at the tactical display in horror. His sensor officer's hands shook as he read the incoming data. Sir, I'm detecting 700 vessels. The largest ship is over 2 kilometers long. Their combined firepower exceeds our entire fleet. The bridge fell silent except for the hum of electronics and the distant sound of alarms. Every Vorthan officer stared at the display, trying to process what they were seeing. This is Admiral Kane of the human Fifth Fleet, a voice announced over the communication channels. Vorthan forces, you are guilty of crimes against innocent civilians. Surrender immediately, and you will be treated according to galactic law. Refuse and face the consequences. Vex found his voice. Human fleet, you are outnumbered. We have 900 ships to your 700. Withdraw now, and we will spare your lives. The human response was immediate and chilling. Admiral, you seem to have miscounted. You have 900 ships. We have 700 ships and 15 very angry humans who have been watching you shoot at their friends for the past 10 minutes. The Vorthan fleet suddenly found itself surrounded. Human ships had appeared not just in front of them, but on all sides, cutting off every escape route. The hunters had become the hunted. Captain Sarah Morgan stood on the bridge of the Thunderstrike, watching the enemy fleet with cold calculation. The Vorthans had spent decades terrorizing peaceful civilizations. Today they would learn what it meant to face predators from a world where only the strongest survived. All ships weapons free, she commanded. Show them how humans fight. What followed was not a battle in any traditional sense. It was a demonstration of overwhelming superiority that left the galaxy stunned. The human weapons were not standard military armaments. They were tools designed to break planets, adapted from mining equipment used to crack asteroids and survive. In Terra's hostile environment, Vorthan battle cruisers that had terrified entire star systems found themselves outgunned by human destroyers. Ships built on the Death World were designed to survive conditions that would kill most other species. Their weapons were created to function in environments where conventional technology failed. Commander Blake's destroyer, Relentless, danced through the Vorthan formation like a shark among minnows. His crew had been born and raised in Terra's crushing gravity. Their reflexes were faster, their endurance greater, and their tactical thinking sharper than any enemy they had ever faced. The space around Solaria Prime erupted into chaos as the human Fifth Fleet opened fire. Admiral Vex watched in horror as his flagship sensors tried to track the incoming human weapons. Ships that had conquered dozens of worlds vanished in brilliant explosions. The battle continued for 7 hours, but the outcome was never in doubt. Human weapons designed to function in Terra's hostile environment proved devastatingly effective against conventional military technology. Human tactics developed through centuries of warfare on a death world overwhelmed enemies who had grown soft from easy victories. By the end of the 7th hour, the Vorthan fleet existed only as wreckage floating in space and prisoners aboard human vessels. Not a single human ship had been destroyed, though several bore scars that their crews would wear as badges of honor. The Great Hall of the Galactic Council had never been so quiet. Representatives from dozens of star systems sat in stunned silence, watching the battle recordings from Solaria Prime for the third time. The numbers seemed impossible, but the evidence was undeniable. 900 Vorthan warships destroyed. Counselor Nexus read from the official report. 0 human vessels lost. Battle duration, 7 hours and 14 minutes. Ambassador Zephyr stood at the center of the chamber, his silver skin still pale with shock and gratitude. "Honored members of the council," he began, his voice trembling with emotion. "We asked for help. We expected perhaps a patrol ship or two, maybe a small squadron if we were fortunate." He paused, looking around the chamber at faces that reflected his own amazement. They sent a fleet that could conquer half the galaxy. Admiral Kane appeared in the chamber via hologram, his expression calm and professional. "Members of the Galactic Council, the Vorthan threat to the Solarian system has been eliminated. Our forces are currently securing the area and providing humanitarian aid to any survivors." The chamber fell silent again. Everyone present was beginning to understand that humanity's harsh home world had taught them lessons the rest of the galaxy had never needed to learn. "What are your intentions now?" asked the Astro representative. "Your fleet could challenge any power in the galaxy." Kane was quiet for a moment, considering his words carefully. "We don't seek conquest, we seek peace. But we've learned that peace requires strength, and sometimes that strength must be demonstrated." The galaxy had learned that when Deathworlders deploy a full fleet, they don't just win battles, they rewrite the rules of war itself. The stars would never look the same to anyone who had witnessed the Battle of Solaria Prime. Somewhere in the darkness, human fleets patrolled the void, ready to respond to the next desperate call for help with the same overwhelming answer, asterisk.